Imagination is a way of seeing rather than inventing. You're not inventing what's there, it already exists. I believe the things we imagine express patterns that exist in every human. And imagination accesses the intermediary world between what we can sense in the physical world and what is more abstract. Early on in our lives, we're told not to daydream. We're told to focus on what's in front of us, to pay attention to the rigid material we're presented with. Even most art classes are about a focus on realism. There's a serious lack of focus on the imaginative. We are told to believe that before agriculture, humans spent all their time trying to survive. Obviously, survival was a huge factor, but I also think that people use their imaginations as a way to interact with the world and themselves. Imagine what you'd think about the sun and moon, for example, if you didn't have scientific facts about them. And our scientific facts at the moment may be very lacking. We may be missing a big part of the picture from just looking at things from a purely materialist perspective. Many of us are always in survival mode. Our jobs are usually the result of us being afraid of not having enough money to live or a fear of discomfort. And many of us are just skating by, just surviving. What would happen if you combined imagination with survival? What if you considered more creative ways to deal with your survival instincts? What if you let your imagination play a bigger role and replace your survival instincts for a moment, replacing that constant impulse that says you must compete, that you must get ahead of others? We're also in procreative mode, needing to mate, needing to impress potential mates, breaking down and needing to escape, needing drugs to forget, needing drugs to repress our emotions that we don't want to feel. What if you took some time aside and just focused on the imaginative? What if that part of you that is stressed needs some time away from the grind, from the normal way of looking at things, just for a few short moments? What if you paid attention to what's happening inside of you? What if you started observing the images in your imagination? And then once you learn how to focus on the visual language inside of you, you can apply it to your outside life. Carl Jung came up with something called active imagination. He communicated with what he believed were archetypes or universal symbols and patterns. For him, these archetypes took on human form. They were inherently human anyway because they were a part of him. He learned a lot from talking to them, learned a lot about his own psychology and the way it worked. Then he took that experience and applied it to his greater understanding of things. And the moving force of it all was his imagination, which he used to imagine what these archetypes looked like and how they functioned. I believe that they functioned independently as working parts of his own self, but it was imagination that served as a vehicle for his experience of them. There's an interplay between what you can imagine and what you sense is real. We already mix our internal senses with what is out there, but we can add from the more imaginative end of the scale and blend or add to realism with it. What if you decided to draw from real life but put an imaginative spin on it? Draw a tree but add flames, for example, or add some vibrant colors, or insert little creatures that aren't there in real life. You can also make the imaginative appear to be realistic. Scales, bark, textures, all coming from the mind, but all rendered somewhat realistically. How would your imaginative tree bark differ from some tree bark you would observe somewhere? It's okay that you can't render the bark exactly from memory, because memory is never exact. It's always subject to our psychological makeup. You can take the ordinary and render it strangely, where it becomes uncanny. Reality pushing that threshold becomes surreal. Never see a thing without seeing through it. What feelings and visuals does looking at a sunrise communicate? You can observe things in the outside world and use your imagination to further them. Can you paint, draw, sculpt, or compose the emotions and imaginative content you get from that? You can see more than just dead materialism. You can see the thing and see its meaning, the object and the imaginative reality inside of it, around it, and through it. If all you believe in is dead materialism, then that's a good way to ensure that that's all you're ever going to see. And it takes a lot of practice to untrain your mind from just seeing in dead materialistic ways. It takes practice to use your imagination if you're not used to it. Now, some say that imagination is fantasy or escape from reality, but I think it's a truer way of perceiving reality. I think that the literal minded person isn't seen more clearly, but that they are seen less. I think that they shut off the faculty inside of them that perceives things as they truly are. Now, that doesn't mean that science is incorrect in saying that the Earth revolves around the sun, but science doesn't take into account what the Earth and sun might symbolize. Everything has multiple meanings. There are many truths, and some of them are abstract or symbolic. You're seeing yourself when you see what you imagine. You're seeing the content of your own mind when you see what you're imagining. Why wouldn't you want to see yourself? Is everything happening in our minds, our dreams, our imaginations? Is it all nonsense? I don't think so. I think it holds a lot of meaning. And when you begin to pay attention to what's going on inside of your mind, you start getting closer to being able to interpret what it means. It's unfortunate that people like schizophrenics who possess a very different way of seeing the world are put into this category where their worldview is insane by default and that their points of view are not given any further thought. I mean, that's just what happens when you deviate outside the norm of generally agreed reality, the general things that people believe. Typically, a schizophrenic believes that their personal mind contents express the only reality. That's part of what makes mental illness an illness. And I think that most people actually have this illness. How is it possible that so many people are wrong when everyone believes that they're right? People are consumed by their personal beliefs and won't meet each other in the middle. They believe that the way they perceive reality is the best way to perceive it. And if their way is best, how could other people possibly be right? Believing that your view is the only correct one is the cause of a lot of conflict, from domestic disputes to world wars. People don't realize that reality can have multiple meanings, that many different things can be true at once. They'll say, "This is the best sort of music." Then the other person says, "No, this is the best sort of music." When they could simply say, "I happen to like this particular type of music right now at this particular time." It's not objectively better, it's just what they like. So, what does this have to do with art and imagination? Imaginative art reveals an artist's unique mental composition and how they perceive and consider reality. They're not decorating the real with some invented pettiness. They're rendering what they actually perceive when they look with the whole eye, whether that eye is focused inward or outward. The imaginative content is the reality. It's the reality for the individual artist. It reflects their unique internal composition. Imagination isn't the opposite of seeing clearly, it's what seeing clearly actually is.